Okay, well, some other juxtapositioning we see in this text happens when Jane and her whole crew land upon the island, right? Tarzan's strength and ability are juxtaposed with Cecil's and others and their inability and weakness. Also, their uncivilized behavior in many ways. The humans cannot hear Sheeta the leopard on page 137 as one example. The humans carry a sword awkwardly. They move at a slow pace. They lack real heroics. And we see her heroism with Tarzan beautifully on page 149. I love this passage right here. It says here, on page 149, for a naked man to drag a shrieking, clawing man-eater forth from a window by the tail to save a strange white girl was indeed the last word in heroism. A naked man to drag a shrieking, clawing man-eater. This is where Tarzan pulls the lioness out of the cabin, right? Out the window, out of the cabin, and then full Nelson, pop, snaps his neck. We see the sailor's brutality. Again, this is Tarzan and people from civilized society, quote-unquote civilized society. Again, a juxtapositioning, right? They come in, and they are compared now with Tarzan. It starts with him as an infant, then him versus the African cannibals, and now him versus, or not Tarzan versus these humans from civilized society, quote-unquote civilization. The sailors act with great brutality on page 169. Tarzan's combinations of strengths on 180, 186 make him more of a further specimen of greatness. For a moment, he scrutinized the ground below and the trees above, until the ape that was in him by virtue of training and environment, combined with the intelligence that was his by right of birth, told his wondrous woodcraft the whole story as plainly as though he had seen the thing happen with his own eyes. Here we have a combination of strengths. The perfected man, perhaps, is one who is not limited by the comforts of society, and yet one with royal blood. We have a man who has not been softened by couches and refined meals that really ruin what we really are meant to be, perhaps, in the world. Tarzan becomes the epitome of great strength and yet also intelligence. On 187, actually, that's Burroughs here, or the narrator says, there are those who believe that the lower orders are specially endowed by nature with better olfactory nerves than man, but it is merely a matter of development. Man's survival does not hinge so greatly upon the perfection of his senses. His power to reason has relieved them of many of their duties, and so they have, to some extent, atrophied, as have the muscles which move the ears and scalp merely from disuse. The muscles are there, about your ears and beneath your scalp, and so are the nerves which transmit sensations to your brain. But they are underdeveloped in you because you do not need them. Not so with Tarzan of the Apes. From early infancy, his survival had depended upon acuteness of eyesight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste, far more than upon the more slowly developed organ of reason. The least developed of all in Tarzan was the sense of taste. This is a fascinating section. The sense of taste, for he could eat luscious fruits or raw flesh, long buried, with almost equal appreciation. But in that he differed but slightly from more civilized epicures. So we have instinct atrophy in our modern social society. And yet in Tarzan, the only thing that never develop was his sense of taste. And that you and I, perhaps, as part of modern society, have allowed to rule over us, almost in terms of bondage. We can't eat something that doesn't taste good. And here Tarzan is the ideal man, because he can eat anything. He can eat old flesh that's been long buried in the ground. He can eat raw flesh, but he can also eat luscious fruits and appreciate all of it. Tarzan's humanity is revealed as an instinct. He has a natural love and desire for Jane. He admires her and recognizes her great beauty. How does he recognize her beauty? Well, beauty is universally recognized, right? Not socially created. That's a very fascinating view of beauty. I would say that beauty is much more of a cultural thing. We're told what is beautiful, whether you're watching on TV or you're told it through the movies and cinema. In culture, as a young person, you're pointed out, this is beautiful, this is not. In our culture, we have an fascination with very thin people, women with large breasts, men with large pecs. I mean, this is like our very cultural view of beauty. But in some ways, it's very ridiculous and horrifying. And it creates a crazy sense of bondage for us as people. If you go to different cultures, there's different views of beauty. A bigger nose, a larger, more corpulent figure or shape, a rounded shape, is more beautiful in some cultures. A longer neck we look at in ancient Egypt, right? A longer neck was seen as more beautiful. But here we have Edgar Rice Burroughs saying, no, he recognizes her beauty. The man who grew up with apes can see that Jane is beautiful? Pretty fascinating. He naturally wants to provide for a woman, so his humanity, even his nobility is instinctual, which is pretty fascinating. He writes Jane a love letter that is inspired by his romantic ancestry we see on page 180. Leadership is revealed in Tarzan. Again, a very instinctual thing. He teaches the apes, right? And this has a lasting impact. The combination in qualities reveal in Tarzan the perfect man. He has great potential as a being, and in some ways Edgar Rice Burroughs talks about Tarzan's, or man's, potential as a being through Tarzan. He has good breeding, and this is really key for Tarzan. So my final comments here. My final kind of encouragement to you as you finish reading the text. Consider Tarzan's treatment of Jane from their first encounter to their last. Choose 3 passages that best illustrate his evolution from beast to beloved. This could be a great paper topic. Another one, Tarzan receives vital tutelage from Giarno, or D. Arnott. Choose 3 passages that most convincingly demonstrate the value of this teacher-student relationship. A third one, beauty and ugliness is employed in a variety of ways in the text. Choose 3 passages in which Burroughs uses beauty and ugliness for significantly different purposes. Hope you enjoyed the text. See you next time.